We begin with the news that contributes to the care of the environment and ecosystems in the islands, giving continuity to the program that seeks to increase the coverage of live coral in the country, 1 million corals for Colombia. Today, the Vice Ministry of Environment and other environmental entities met to finalize details of this initiative in San Andres.
The national government held a workshop in the department focused on the program 1 Million Corals for Colombia, an initiative that seeks to recover, rehabilitate, and restore 200 areas of coral reef in the country, which started in 2021, and the archipelago is among the intervention areas. Coralina's director, Arne Britton, and a representative from the Ministry of Environment gave a report on the progress made in the islands.
We have already made progress. We have approximately 35,000 coral fragments already started. And the idea is that by 2023, when the project will culminate, we can have the 600,000 corals that fall within our jurisdiction. San Andres and all Providence have been planting for some time now. We started with the process of 3,000 corals in Old Providence in the national park, because the development of this action at the national parks is important, and we have been establishing the goal that we must plant that million corals.
The Ministry of the Environment indicated that most of the restored corals will be on the islands of San Andres, Old Providence, and Santa Catalina, which are home to 77% of the country's corals. Additionally, Colombia has the third most important coral reef barrier in the world. The implementation of this strategy will mean an initial investment of 8,450 million pesos.
From this Saturday, January 29th, public entities will not be able to make any more contracts due to the Guarantee Act. In Teleislas News, we explain what it consists of.
This January 29th of 2022, Law 996 of 2005, or Electoral Guarantees Law, will come into force, a transparency mechanism implemented by the national government which prohibits governors, mayors, secretaries, managers, and directors of state entities of the municipal, departmental, and district order to enter into inter-administrative agreements to execute public resources during the 4 months prior to any election day. This means that from the next months, the state entities will not be able to hire or dismiss personnel or modify payroll with the purpose of avoiding the manipulation of voters during the election process. On the other hand, all contracts entered into before January 29th of 2022 will continue to be processed in the ordinary way. This year, the country will have 2 elections, Congress and Presidency of the Republic, which means that the Guarantees Act will be implemented. In addition to this, the National Agency of Public Procurement, Colombia Compra Eficiente, announced that during the last few days there has been a significant increase in the levels of contracts, to the point that the daily volume of operations handled by the entity has even increased 5-fold.
In the month of February, the first cruise ship is expected to anchor in the island. The authorities are holding a work table so that the great reception is conducted in the best way possible.
After the technical table led by the General Maritime Directorate demand in the last hours, giving priority attention to the request for the arrival of cruise ship to the department, it is expected that they will arrive to the island of San Andres during the months of February and March.
Esta semana se realizó una mesa técnica.
This week, a technical meeting was held within the framework of the Facilitation Committee, which was also attended by the Secretary of Tourism. Through this, a request for the arrival of cruise ships that want to come to this island was attended.
After the suspension of cruise ship arrivals to the department due to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2019, this is a great opportunity to support the economic growth of the department.
No doubt it is a very important issue because this will promote both the economy and will publicize the natural and environmental wealth that this beautiful island has.
The first cruise ship that will arrive to the island will come from Central America.
Que va a llegar en esta oportunidad.
The cruise ship that will arrive this time comes from the port of Belize, a Central American country, and it is coming with about 800 passengers, which will be in our department getting to know our gastronomy and culture.
The authorities make a call to the tourist service providers and the community in general to offer the best attention to the visitors.
Aprovecho de manera especial motivar a nuestros prestadores de servicio turístico, las personas.
I take advantage of this opportunity to encourage our tourism service providers or the establishments that are visited by these tourists to provide the best quality of service, that we may serve people with the best we have so that these tourists can continue visiting our department.
Esta es una puerta que se abre para que se sigan llegando más embarcaciones.
This is a door that opens so that more boats of this type continue arriving to the island. That is why it is important to work as a team, not only the civil and military authorities, but also the community, so that when tourists arrive here on the island, they feel well cared for.
And taking into account that on February 4th, this tourist cruise ship will arrive to the department, departing from Belize, repair and maintenance works are being performed at the Cove Dock in order to advance with the contingency plan led by the Secretariat of Tourism.
The Secretary of Tourism has clarified that currently the work that is being done at the Cove Dock is a contingency plan to adapt it so that it is in an optimal condition to receive the first cruise ship that will be on the island on February 4th. The work to be done on the dock and that fall under the agreement signed with Fontur will begin as soon as the relevant procedures and studies are completed, as explained by the Secretary of Tourism, in addition to specifying what will be adjustment to be made.
En el muelle se van a realizar
all the infrastructure adaptations will be made at the pier. Currently, the platform of the pier is in good conditions, so the agreement will be to improve and provide the sanitary materials. All that has to do with the flooring, the cement, it will be improved aesthetically more than all, mentioning that studies were made and the platform is in good conditions. Therefore, we are going to do everything possible so that the pier is totally functional, that it has its bathrooms. We are not going to use the plastic wood as when this pier was inaugurated, but we are going to place a non-skid tile and some other improvements.
The maneuvers for the disembarkation of the approximately 800 visitors to the island are under the post-captaincy jurisdiction. The Secretary invited tourism service providers to offer the best quality of service to the people who will enter the island and to give their best impressions so that international tourists are motivated to visit the archipelago.
And in other news, the head of the tourism department took advantage of the opportunity to add that maintenance work is being done at the tourism information points in order to improve visitor service.
The information points are important and necessary spaces for the visitors because in this space, the tourists will be informed of the place of touristic and cultural interest.
Entrusted to this undersigned is the work to improve the public infrastructure of the department in terms of tourism, and in that sense, I also want to inform the community that we have begun work to adapt and build again the pits, which is the tourist information point we have on the Spratbite area. We will build it again. It will be an infrastructure that will be anti-hurricane, or at least it will be more resistant to the strong winds that come with natural phenomena.
According to the Secretary, the work, which has already started, will last for 1 month through an agreement with Fontur.
And regarding to the COVID situation in the department, the Ministry of Health issued a statement providing details of the Omicron variant and the popular belief that it is similar to a common cold.
First of all, the Ministry of Health pointed out that the variant is nothing more than the virus that when it replicates, its genetic code can be read more. That is to say, the virus has a bandage of about 30,000 letters when it makes its duplication. Some of them can change, and in the case of Omicron, it has been characterized by more than 50 mutations, and at least 30 of these occur in the protein of the spike, which are the ones that attach to the human cell. Regarding the differences between the variants, the expert pointed out that they are known as Delta, Gamma, Beta, Alpha, which has been catalogued by the World Health Organization as being of concern, either because they are more contagious, more aggressive, more lethal, or because they can evade the defense that are proceeded when the person gets COVID and recovers. In the case of Omicron, the infectologist pointed out it differs because it is more contagious, but is a variant that managed to evade the defense generated by the history of COVID. That is to say, it have a greater risk of becoming infected again. In this sense, he emphasized that with Omicron, probably 15 or 20% of patients can be reinfected.
This variant manages to partially evade the immunity, that is to say, the defenses that the vaccines generate in me. This means that if I have a vaccine that protected me 90%, with Omicron it can be 60% or 50%. It's a bad thing. But I also take this opportunity to say that an advantage is when the person gets the booster. This booster makes the defenses that were falling with Omicron go back up again.
However, when the person takes the booster, this booster can cause the defenses to increase again. When compared to Delta, which is previously circulating variant, Omicron is less aggressive. It produced fewer hospitalization and deaths compared to Delta, which is the most aggressive variant. However, this variant is less aggressive, but it affects. Experts say that this variant is less aggressive. The variant is indeed less, but neither is not a common cold. Just as there are people with mild or asymptomatic symptoms, unvaccinated people are at higher risk, such as adults over 50 or vulnerable groups with comorbidities, are predisposed to complications even with Omicron.
And now we present the indicators of the COVID-19 situation in the department.
As of today, January 28th, the Ministry of Health report 22 new cases of COVID-19. That is, the islands reached 9,833 cases since the beginning of the pandemic. According to data from the Secretariat of Health at the local level, there are 27 active cases, 9,605 recovered, 152 deaths, and ICU occupancy is at 12%.
The Registrar's Office inspected voting points on the island. Jamie Almanza from the newsroom brings us details of this information.
The National Civil Registry Office, together with the Secretariat of Government, made an inspection of the voting stations in order to know what will be the logistics required to be used on March 13th in the 2022 congressional elections. It should be noted that 7 voting points have been set up in San Andres, Bolivariano School, Luis Amigo, Natania, Brooksville, San Luis Coliseum, El Esfuerzo School, and the New Hope Prison. For the National Registry of Civil Status, it is important to guarantee transparency in the 2022 elections.
At this time, we continue with Millicent O'Neill and all the news of the municipality of Old Providence and Santa Catalina.
Good evening to all our viewers. This is the most relevant information from Old Providence and Catalina. The Municipal Secretariat of Agriculture and Fisheries is conducting workshops to strengthen productive associations under the criteria of environmental, economic, and social sustainability.
4 days of coaching to strengthen and reactivate both agricultural and fishing producers is being carried out by the Mayor's Office with support of the Green Chamber of Commerce and the consulting firm Ithaca Solutions.
A series of coaching direct to the association them, because we want them to build their action plan so that we as secretary, as the municipality, can know exactly how we should intervene in the different necessities and how we can strengthen those weaknesses that them have as association.
Water, energy consumption, waste management, and product marketing are some of the challenges for producers.
So the idea is to give them tools to think strategically. If they're going to be farming cassava, who's that going to be sold to? If they're going to be exporting to San Andres, what are the requirements for packaging, for cold chain? And the idea is that we help them strengthen the supply first for the local community here in Providencia, so that locals can access good food at a lower price. And then what you have in excess, you can then export.
Finally, topics such as improving business models, productivity, and associativity are key to strengthen these associations.
And the idea we have here is that by helping the associations, we can help them better organize to produce better in challenging conditions, under climate change conditions, with low water conditions, so that they can help to ensure self-reliance in the productivity of certain products for the nutrition of the islanders.
This process will be continuous in order to help both farmers and fishermen improve their practices.
And on the other hand, Impulsa Colombia and the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism are developing a program for the delivery of business units in order to recover the business fabric affected by Hurricane Iota.
The delivery of business units with island architecture are part of a program by Impulsa that seeks to help recover the business network in the municipality.
We identified 216 business units that were affected by Hurricane Iota. So we have two phases. A first phase was to capitalize or help add these units that lost their productive capital, and a second phase is the construction or reconstruction of units that lost everything.
The business units are built in pine wood with a one-side roof plus the possibility of its expansion. The anchorage, ironwork, and bolts are galvanized.
In this second phase, which is the construction stage, 54 units were identified. Of those 54, 20 have been delivered to date.
The next step after the delivery of the units is its capitalization.
The Chamber of Commerce will participate with the following program by helping the units capitalize. That is, to operate, provide machinery, equipment, supplies, inventories, so that they can start selling again.
This program for the recovery of the municipality business network has advanced 40%.
And this is all the information we have for tonight for this section of Old Providence and Ketlina. You guys can continue in San Andres with more Teleislas news. Good night.
Thank you, Millie. And with news from Old Providence, we reach to the end of our broadcast. See you Sunday at 8 p.m. with Teleislas News Weekend. Good night.